Well, not much of a game last night. Well, I guess it was a good game if you're a Philadelphia fan. The Eagles won the Super Bowl handily, just pounced Kansas City, who were trying to three-peat, but it just goes to show, folks, how difficult it is to three-peat in any sport, but in the NFL in particular, because it's just the parity out there is very difficult. So to get back to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, that's quite a feat. But nonetheless, it was Philadelphia dominated the game right off the first kick, and never looked back. And congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not that they're listening to this show this morning. You never know, I guess. Maybe we get some fans. But not much of a game, but still a decent event nonetheless. So we turn our sights now to baseball. That's right. I think spring training. Players show up for spring training, catchers and pitchers, fairly soon. That's my favorite sport, of course, baseball. I love my baseball. We got hockey in the meantime and lots of other things in the sporting world to talk about. But another season is in the books in the NFL, and my Jets still have not won a Super Bowl. I wonder if I'll ever see my New York Jets win the Super Bowl. What are you laughing at, John?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a while before they win one again.
All right, John Young, of course, joins me here in studio, District 14, Hammonds Plains, Upper Hammonds Plains, Lucasville, Middle and Upper Sackville. That's a long handle. That's a long District 14, eh?
Yes, it's about 20,600 residents in the area, and it's a big district.
Yeah, for sure. All right, it's Councillors on the hot seat, and we've got John Young here in studio, who's a rookie councillor. Patty Cuttell, District 11, hopefully will join us as well. We're looking to have her add her voice to the discussion. In the meantime, we've got other things that we can talk about also when we open the phone lines between 11 and 12 today. One of the stories that has caught my eye, pipeline possibilities. In the wake of Donald Trump's tariff threats, majority support Energy East Northern Gateway. So this is, I find, interesting that we're even having the conversation again about pipelines. Back in 2017, of course, the Energy East concept was put to bed by the Liberals, but now that it, of course, has been resurrected. So that is one of the questions that I'll ask you in light of this survey done by Angus Reid. Again, 2/3 say they would support the renewal of Energy East. Are you amongst those 2/3? What are your thoughts on this? And, of course, Donald Trump added again yesterday, talking on Air Force One about Canada becoming the 51st state, saying he's dead serious about this. And like I said before, I think at some point we have to take him at his word that he means business when he says that he wants to make us the 51st state. What do you think would have to happen? What circumstances would have to fall into place for that to happen? And I would suggest that pretty much economic collapse would probably be a good start if we dealt with economic collapse. And could a hostile United States White House and government in general make that happen? And I would say that it probably could, and we may be witnessing it as we speak right now. So we can get into that as well. Lots of other things to talk about as well. A regional councillor has filed a motion asking staff to consider the feasibility of removing X as a social media platform used by HRM. Currently, the platform is used to distribute information to residents. Councillor Laura White, who represents District 7, said she'll file the motion in growing concern about the platform's governance going against the municipal values of evidence-based decision-making and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So that's something else that I will throw out there as well, amongst many other things. Again, when we open the phone lines for your general calls and comments between 11 and 12. And it is a Monday. Again, we have our councillors on the hot seat joining us here in studio. As mentioned, John Young, District 14. Patty Cuttell joined us as well, District 11, Spryfield, Sambro Loop. Patty, grab that mic. Pull that in. There you go. Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Wait, Vanessa did not have your mic turned on, unfortunately. Try it again.
Testing. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Monday. It's a gorgeous day out there. Glad to be here.
There you go. Try those headphones on as well. You know the routine. You're a veteran councillor here.
I know, but John is in my regular seat here.
And he brought you coffee as well, but you brought one also. Yeah. We have enough caffeine to keep us all going here, I think, for quite a while. What do you think?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. All right, as mentioned, John Young, District 14, Patty Cuttell, District 11. We're all fully caffeinated here. Give us a call, 902-405-6000, if you've got questions for the councillors. Again, 902-405-6000. John, let me start with you. Anything in general that you wanted to pass along from your constituents or from your district, or anything in general that you wanted to get out there before we get going?
Just that there was a long-time resident of Lucasville who just passed away just recently, and just a shout-out to the family, the Oliver family. It was Pearlie Oliver. He passed away, and he was a well-known resident of Lucasville.
Okay.
So on that, my condolences and prayers go to the family.
Okay, fair enough. And you were mentioning, we were chatting before we went on the air, that you were a little surprised with the workload that goes along. Not that you were complaining, because I asked you, but with the workload that goes along with being a member of council.
Yeah, I guess it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
I knew there would be a lot, but yeah, it's a lot.
The learning curve is steep, eh?
Steep learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. But you're not complaining.
No. I'm a community person. I ran for community, so to better the communities in District 14, that's the primary reason why I ran.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Patty Cuttell, well, what's going on in your world?
Oh, gosh, a whole lot right now. I mean, we're getting into the thick of budget, and also a lot of snow over the last week, which always raises a lot of concerns around road safety and snow plowing, and had a bus slide off Dumbrock
Yeah, I saw that
last week.
Oh.
And then we also lost a fishing vessel off of Sambro last week, and lost two fishermen. And Sambro has a long history of fishing and life on the sea, and loss of life, in that industry is nothing new, but it's always a tragedy. It's a very, very dangerous industry, especially in the winter time when you have bad weather, and so I think everyone is feeling the impact of that incident and the loss, and my condolences and sympathies to all the people involved, and just a big shout out to the first responders who go out there, the Coast Guard, the people on the shore, the support, who risk their lives to save others. So
absolutely. Okay. 902-405-6000 if you'd like to chat with John or Patty or both. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Where are we with budget deliberations, which just kicked off on, I believe the first one was last week, Patty? That's correct.
It was. We reviewed the operating budget and the capital budget. Over the next month or so, we'll hear from each business unit, and they'll present a business plan for the fiscal year ahead, as well as their budget to support that business plan. The final decision on what the tax rate will be, or what the budget will be, because the budget determines the tax rate, right? So the final approval of the budget doesn't happen until April, I believe, early April, first week of April. So lots of opportunity for discussion. I just want to remind the public that you too have the opportunity to weigh in on this. You can send in correspondence to council at clerks@halifax.ca. Or at every budget meeting, there's an opportunity for the public to come and speak to council during the public participation portion of the meeting. And I highly encourage people to take advantage of that if there's something that you want to share with us.
Okay. John, what are your thoughts so far on budget deliberations?
The tax issues are primarily what I'm getting emails and phone calls about, the reason for the increases. But the reason for the increases are for the services that we provide, also for what we need in the future, for future assets for the municipality. So the tax increase goes hand in hand with the services that are provided and what we need to do to better the municipality. So, but the amount is something that Councillor Cuttell also mentioned, that final amount is not until it's all approved.
Mm-hmm. Well, I get that, but do you feel as though that I get emails all the time, and like you said, you get a lot of emails and a lot of correspondence. Do you feel as though that people are being properly represented when it comes to somebody being their advocate as a taxpayer, as a ratepayer? Do you feel as though council are effective advocates for constituents?
I believe so. There are some areas that might feel that they're not getting the full services based on the taxes that they pay. Mm-hmm. But those are the things that will be discussed during the debate of the actual budget itself. And yeah.
Patty, what about yourself? Do you feel as though council does a decent job advocating for taxpayers?
Well, it all depends on council's priorities and what they're advocating for, right? And people get elected for different reasons. I'm certainly hearing from lots of people that cost of living is a real factor, and I saw that on the doors when I was campaigning this fall. Like, a young couple like buying a house, and during the pandemic and with mortgage rate and interest rate increases, being at a point where they're stretched. They don't think they can even keep their house, and where are they going to go? Because it doesn't get any cheaper out there. And so I think everybody's feeling the pinch. And at council, while we have a lot of external pressures that are driving budget increases, such as inflation, other things that are driving budget increases are compensation and benefits. We have collective bargaining with unions, and employees are also getting, for the most part, increases in their wages, also to keep up with the cost of living. And we want to attract and retain and appreciate, the employees who work for the city. But that alone, $44 million increase in our budget just to, just for compensation and benefits. We have $9 million increase in our budget for contractual increases, and that includes, everything from, roadworks, mm-hmm. companies charging us more to, cleaning services. So, it's part of the increase are costs that are outside of our control, and then part of it will be costs within our control, the projects that we decide to invest in. And, with the cities at this point, we've had all this growth. It's kind of a transformational moment for the city, but at the same time, some real fiscal pressures on the ratepayers. So I think, I'm hoping as we go through this budget process that all of council is keeping that in mind. And I always say, I would just really like a Toyota Prius. I don't need a Cadillac. And so how do we keep projects moving forward, but also keep costs in check?
Okay, fair enough. 902-405-6000. Ed, hello.
Hey, how you doing today?
Doing well.
Got a couple questions for Patty.
Okay.
First question: when's the new Spryfield hockey rink going to be built?
Well, that is an interesting question. So, that originally we had the consultation on that happen last year, with the goal of having the arena operational by 2027. Recently, I had a meeting with staff because, in parallel to the rink, we're also looking at doing major renovations to the Captain William Spry Centre. And it was just last week or the week before, I met with staff to, discuss the idea of what if we did one center instead of two. Instead of having a rink and a community center, what if we did one, kind of sportsplex of a kind. And And, I would say that conversation was just very, very recent. I will be looking to the community to get some feedback on that idea. I understand that by doing something like that, it's going to push out, a new arena another 5 years or so, which isn't ideal because, we really, the population has just exploded in Spryfield, and the demand for services like arenas and facilities is also exploded across the entire municipality. Like we need an arena. We need two rinks. But so right now, those are the things I'm thinking about how do we move forward, kind of balancing the immediate needs and also kind of looking at long-term efficiencies. And I hope to hear from the community about that, how to proceed.
Okay, that's a little disheartening that it's not happening sooner rather than later. I do have a second question. Why when I voted for Andy Fillmore as mayor, and he got elected by a large majority, council's not putting through things that people voted for him, i.e., I voted for this guy because he said he would take down encampments, he would get congestion out of the city down, and he would freeze the tax rate. Well, you voted against him on the encampments. You voted against him on the Windsor Exchange, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with the tax freeze. But why is council going against the wishes of what the public voted Andy Fillmore to get done?
Okay, so I think I can comment on all three of those points.
Sure.
In terms of the Windsor Street Exchange, I did vote for that to proceed. I was hoping that would proceed. We need that work for the port, for traffic congestion, and also to get some bus priority and better AT infrastructure. Again, it's certainly not a Cadillac in terms of bus priority and active transit infrastructure, but it's certainly better than what we have now. And I see it as a lost opportunity, but that was the decision of council, and that might be coming forward again, and we'll see where that goes. But I was supportive of that. In terms of the encampments, I mean, the trick there is if you go and you take down an encampment and you don't have a place for people to go, that encampment is just going to move somewhere else. And, we went through, it was quite a process of the last council to get to where we are today with that approach. And would I like to see encampments gone? I certainly would, but I don't know. The only answer to getting rid of encampments is having places for people to go. Otherwise, it's just moving them around, and there's several reasons why that's not ideal. So we're still working toward that. We've been very supportive and cooperating with the province, whose responsibility it is to provide shelters and provide housing and supportive housing and public housing and mental health and healthcare. So, that's a complex issue. And, as for the tax rate, the tax rate is very much determined by the budget that gets approved. There have been situations where the budget has actually increased, but the tax rate has decreased because of the increase in the number of housings, units of housing. So, that relationship between the budget and the tax rate is an important one to understand, and we haven't decided what the tax rate's going to be or the budget. That will happen in over the course of the next few months and decided in April.
Could I chime in a little bit on
Sure.
those three?
Actually, we need a break.
Okay.
Ed, do you mind holding?
Yeah, I don't mind holding.
All right, stick there. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us for Councillors on the Hot Seat. We'll be right back. All right, it is a Monday. We've got our councillors here in studio. Councillors on the Hot Seat, John Young, Patty Cuttell. And John, I wasn't aware of the fact I would have made a bigger deal over this, that you are a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So this is a pretty big day for you.
Oh, yeah, it is. I just didn't know how anybody else felt, so I didn't want to rub it in.
All right. Well, anyway, an extra congratulations to you then.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking to Ed before break. Ed, you had a follow-up question that you wanted to have for the councillors?
Well, just a continuation on my last question. I mean, I voted for Andy Fillmore as mayor based on things that he told the people in the city of Halifax, or HRM, that he was going to get done. And people voted for that, and the councillors are going against the wishes of the majority of the people who voted for it, it seems. I almost think Tim Houston needs to do what Doug Ford did in Ontario and give the mayor some, a little extra powers here. I'm not trying to knock you guys as councillors, but when the people say, hey, I'm voting for the mayor to get things done,
Well, perhaps that.
But don't you feel like you have an obligation to do what the people have voted the guy in to do?
Well, I'm not sure, Ed, that I think that perhaps if people were voting that way, they're naive because the mayor has no more power than any other councillor, right? Am I?
Well, I mean, there's a bit of an unwritten rule there. I've seen in past Halifax mayors who have done things on an election platform, and they get that done. So, is Andy Fillmore a weak mayor here? Does he not bring you guys into a room as councillors and say, hey, this is the agenda I'd like to get passed here. I need you guys.
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. How much influence should and does the mayor have, John?
Well, the mayor does mention sometimes what is favorable for the decision in the HRM, but you have to realize too that the councillors still need to get as much information as possible to make an informed decision. And part of that falls on the districts who they're representing. It's HRM as a whole, but it's also district bound too, based on where the councils come from. In your first inquiry about the Windsor Street Exchange, I did vote against that based on two things. Number one, I wanted to see if the Port Authority would have increased their funding support along with the province. So that decision really isn't dead in the water. It's still coming back through a recession motion. For the encampments, I voted with the mayor on that one there. And because I felt that the information that was provided, I could back that. And for the tax rate, it's similar to what Councillor Culler said. It's determined by the budget once it's approved. So those are my three inputs on those three that you had there.
And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to knock you guys. I'm just trying to get a sense of, hey, you know what? The people voted. The people spoke. And don't you feel it's a bit of an obligation, even if it's something that you're not really for, that the mayor says, hey, people voted me in to get these things done. We need to get them passed.
Patty, do you feel any obligation to what the mayor promises as a member of council?
Well, I would just like to remind listeners that it's only been a couple months. It's only been a few months. I mean, Mayor Fillmore was just sworn in November, so it's early days. Things don't typically move at a lightning pace.
But do that. You as an individual councillor, do you feel as though the mayor should have some type of influence over how you vote or conduct the affairs of your district?
I certainly take things into consideration, but we have a lot of new people on council, including a new mayor. Some cases, particularly with the encampments, there's a long history of how we got there, and to John's point, I mean, the learning curve and the workload is significant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Same with the Windsor Street Exchange. I mean, we've been talking about that since 2019.
Okay, that all said, though, the question is, do you have an obligation to do what the mayor wants?
No, we don't have an obligation. We have an obligation to vote as we see fit.
Right.
That's what we're elected to do. That being said, council, we can't have a dysfunctional council. We need to establish some priorities and move forward. We're working on that right now. We're working on the strategic plan for the next 5 years. It's an opportunity for us all to get together and find out, where we have common common goals and vision, and then start to work toward that. So, like I said, it's early days, and I think council has an obligation to make the best decisions for the municipality, and I think we all do that to the best of our ability.
Okay, Ed, and just 10 seconds back to you as a response. 10, 20 seconds quickly, please.
Yeah, it's early days. I'll certainly be watching it. If things don't change, I think it's time for Premier Houston to maybe think about giving the HRM mayor a little bit extra powers to put things through that the people voted them in for.
Okay, thanks, pal. 902-405-6000. Councilors on the Hot Seat continues when we come back. All right, it is a Monday. That means we're chatting with our councillors on the hot seat. John Young here in studio along with Patty Cuttell. If you've got a question for either or both of the councillors, give us a call at 902-405-6000. That is the way to do it. Jim, you wanted to weigh in on the Andy Fillmore chat. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, how you doing? Good morning. Thank the councillors for being on. I live in Patty's district, so she's my representative, and I have to commend her for looking ahead. Maybe it's her planning background. I don't know. But looking ahead in regards to the Windsor Exchange, I was born and raised up in that area, lived there for many years. It's a nightmare, and if we don't move on it now, it's going to cost probably 10 times as much by the time they start to move on it. The other thing is there are a lot of rumors going around in Spryfield in regards to the Lions Rink and the Captain Spry Center either not being repaired or maybe a long-term other solution. So, Patty, I'm glad you discussed that. The other thing is the mayor thing. When I ran for mayor just recently, I was a proponent of giving the mayor a little bit more leeway when it comes to bringing stuff before council. Councillors that are in their own district are only voted in by their own district, where the mayor does have a mandate, supposedly by the majority of voters in the HRM. My comment is that I would like to see the mayor, at least at some point in time, to be able to form his own budget himself with staff assisting him and bring that before council. In other words, move some of the projects up that he was elected on, as your last caller said. For example, the mayor would have a budget proposal or some type of budget proposal for the Windsor Exchange, some type of budget proposal for moving buses through HRM, and bring that to council, and they would have to look at it. So I'd like a few comments on that, if I could.
Okay, Patty?
Yeah, well, thank you, and hello. Good to hear from you. Well, I mean, that's a process. That's a different process. Basically, the way it has been working the entire time I've been on council is that staff takes a look at the priorities that are defined by council and mayor, puts those into a budget about, moving projects forward and sometimes delaying other projects to come within what they might consider meeting the expectations of both council and of a reasonable budget, and then council debates that. Having, the mayor, of course, has the opportunity to talk to the CAO, has the opportunity to talk to staff, and has the opportunity to talk to council and also to bring forward things through the council process. That's an idea that you have. I don't know where else that's done or how it might work, but
John, you want to weigh in on this? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree with Councillor Cuttell. It is an option. If it would move things further more quickly and efficiently, it would be something to look at. But I think before, if this was the case and he brought a budget proposal to council, it would be an opportunity where we could counter some of those decisions too as well. So it's an option. I'm open for options and doing things different and doing things more efficiently for the residents of the HRM.
Okay, Jim, any follow-up?
Yes. Just to follow up that, it's been done in the United States. You know, this particular weak system versus strong system. The United States has had a strong system in many cities for many years. But in fairness, if anybody did look at it, some cities are turning that around and moving back to a weaker system, something like we have. But that doesn't mean that we can't explore it, because I think Andy has a lot of good ideas. I think he is moving in on the mandates that he proposed. He's not going to win them all, but I'll emphasize once again, there has to be a different change, because the mayor is elected by the majority of people, which were only 123,000 voters out of 336,000 or something. So the councillors have their own districts to look after, and the city in general. But the mayor is elected by the majority of HRM with certain mandates that they really want to see. And I think it's not, I guess I'll put it out there to say it's not worth, or I mean, it is worth exploring if and when they should choose to do so.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
You.
Thanks. Take care. 902-405-6000. Roy, hello.
Hello there. How are you guys today?
We're doing well.
That's good. I have a question for Patty. I sent an email on June 29th of 2024 regarding boat launch only parking at the Dingle boat launch.
Yes, I remember, and I have been following up on that. That, you know, I'm totally with you. We need to have that boat launch operable. Access to the water is getting less and less and less, and with the growing population, la-di-da-di-da, we need to make sure we preserve and protect those accesses to our harbor. So the latest on that is I met with the Commissioner of Public Works. He came up. I had a long list of items, and that was one of my items on my long list, and he asked me to go through and prioritize things, and I divided it up into things that were immediate and long-term and low-hanging fruit and more complex. And so I had an email exchange with somebody from Parks and Rec yesterday we're going to go have a site visit and take a look at that and see what we can do to ensure that boats can get in and out of that boat launch. So
yes,
hope that answers your question.
There's a lot of confrontation down there. They're blocking off the boat ramp, and they're blocking off the parking for the boat for the people that are launching boats, and there's nowhere for them to park with their trailers, to leave the trailers there. And it was always boat launch parking only. And unfortunately, that's not being respected, and there's really no signs there. So it's a really cheap solution. I figure it's not a big budget item, I don't think. And I wrote an email to you in December, and I've yet to get a reply from it regarding this. So I was just wondering what the update was on it.
Yeah, so that's the update, and that meeting about it with my long list of items that just happened last week. So I actually have an update. And now, do I still want me to return your email, or is this satisfying?
No, that's fine. But do you think there's any chance that it'll be done before this season, or?
That would be my hope, that it's something that we can do this spring. That would be my hope. But until I go down and evaluate it with the park staff and see what can be done, I'm not sure. And I'm very supportive of this, and I think it's a safety issue too. I mean, if people launch their boat down there and then they can't get their boat out, and the weather turns or something happens, it could be a safety issue as well. So.
And also, I mentioned in one of my emails to you that it could be a seasonal thing. It might be something you might want to talk to them about, like from May 15th to October 1st.
Okay, Roy, thanks for the call. Thank you. 902-405-6000. Tony, hello.
Good morning. Good morning, councillors.
Good morning.
Taxes. I am so confused. 4.7% tax increase based on assessment. And over the years, I've been here quite a while here in this area. I live rural, and when the assessment came up, councillors would say, well, look, we don't do the assessment. This comes from another department, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 4.7% of the tax increase this year is going to come from a tax assessment that you all don't know anything about. So that's good. The other 2.7%, I don't understand either. And I don't understand that the budget is $1.3 billion operating budget with an additional $318 million in capital spending. So does this make the entire budget $1.6 billion, or why do we have an independent 318 that is in capital spending? And my last question on this issue is Halifax. You know, with 7.6, which I don't know where you got 4.7 and 2.7 is when I went to school was 7.4, but obviously I'm missing something. I want to know where that 3% for Halifax is going, and if you think about that and you add that on the 7.6% or 7.4%, well in excess of 10%. Where do you think that the taxpayer is going to get that money from? And what are your priority projects? And what are the need projects and the want projects that you all are looking for to spend this money on? The councils perennially overshoot the mark, and then either they're backing down or the taxpayer's reaching in his pocket. I'm tired of that, of reaching in my pocket. Can you help me out and tell me what's going on?
John, either of you? They're both looking at each other.
Yeah.
Neither of them want to touch it.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot there. A lot there. I just want to say that the total expected budget is $1.3 billion. The proposed operating budget is a net increase of 5.8%, or $69.7 million. So you know, you are right. There are a lot of numbers there to consider, and percentages here and percentages there. There's operating budget, there's capital budget, but the total expected budget is $1.3 billion. You know, another part of that, of course, is the mandatory taxes that HRM is required to raise for the province. That includes things like mandatory education, for example. And so, you know, that also shows up on your tax bill. And as for the assessment piece, I think you're talking about PVSC, their assessment of homes. Could you just ask that question again? I wasn't quite sure what you were getting at.
Well, the breakdown that I initially saw was that the first 4.7% was based on property assessment. And then there was an additional 2.7% to reach the goal of $1.3 billion. But you know, your math is off. I don't know how you get $1.3 billion, then add $318 million, and still come up with $1.3 billion. Are they independent? But at any rate, the answer to your question is that it was right. The first thing that was said was 4.7 billion will come, or percent will come from property taxes. So in the past, that wasn't discussed. The councillors would divert that because they said they didn't know anything about that because they weren't responsible for that. So are you responsible for it?
I'm not 100% clear what you're talking about, so I can't say if we're responsible for it or not. I do wonder if the 300 million, the 300. Where
does the 7.4% come from?
I do wonder if the 300 million that you're talking about is the mandatory taxes that are raised for the province.
Look, the city is subcontracting out to the province. You're not given anything that you couldn't give if you had the right equipment, snow removal, etc. My snow is removed by the province, and I live in the HRM, so I know that there are several contracts there are several duties that are subcontracted to the province because they have the machinery and the ability to do it. So doing that, you're trying to say it's the province that's taken 3 or whatever the number is. But the fact of the matter is, HRM can't provide the service, so they sub it out to the province, and they want paid, and they should get paid. If you're going to put a truck driver moving snow, you got to pay him. So, that's all BS. I mean, that's...
Well,
anyway,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's BS, but with all due respect, the money that goes to the province is as mandatory education payment, and that's mandatory, and that has also been increasing. It's not for roads. So you are right. Like, since amalgamation, there's roads within HRM that are plowed and maintained by the province, and there's roads that are within what we call the urban service boundary, which are owned and maintained by HRM. When the density on a particular road reaches a certain point, then that road gets transferred to the municipality. So we saw that last year where HRM assumed a number of roads that we are now responsible for, including upgrading, the infrastructure. In several cases, like cross culverts have to be replaced. It's actually an added expense when Halifax assumes a provincial road. So that was all worked out in a service exchange agreement back at the time of amalgamation. And HRM's not paying the province for that. That was, again, it was like, HRM assuming the responsibility for the county, which was always a provincial responsibility.
Okay, Tony, I got a boogie. Thanks for the call.
All right, thanks a lot.
Take care. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with our councillors when we come back. All right, we got a few minutes left to the top of the hour. We got our councillors here in studio, John Young and Patty Cuttell, 902-405-6000. Chris is giving us a buzz. Hello, Chris.
Good morning, guys. Look, Patty, you made a couple of comments. One was that the budget consists of priorities of staff and council. How about having a budget that consists of the priorities of the taxpayers? Do you guys ever think of that?
Well, that is what council's priorities are usually a reflection of. I mean, we get elected running for certain platform, and those are the priorities we bring forward, and so that's how that happens. And 100%. I mean, it's interesting in that in setting. Going through the strategic priorities process right now for the next 5 years. The staff who are assisting with this process actually went through all our campaign websites, looking at what we as individual councillors were putting forward as priorities for our different districts, and those are the things that we got elected on, and so those are the things that we bring forward into that discussion, that priority setting discussion.
Okay. You also mentioned that there was, you said that taxpayers can have an opportunity for input when you're having your budget meetings. What days and what are the hours that you decide to deliberate this budget that people could attend?
So generally for the next month, budget meetings are Wednesdays and Fridays. Fridays are a contingency day. So the public participation portion is in the morning. We now have virtual capability, so if you're not able to be in council chamber in person, you can sign up in advance to talk to us virtually, and also you can always at any time send in a written correspondence.
Like when you say morning, like 9 till noon or 10 till noon, or what kind of hours?
Budget meetings start at 9:30, and the public participation portion is early on in the agenda. So, between 9:30 and 10:30.
Okay, 9:30, 10:30. But these are work days for people. Why don't you have some kind of a public meeting set up where people could go on the weekend or evenings or sometime when they're not normally working? It seems that you guys are always saying that the public has opportunities for input, but those opportunities are when people are working generally. It's not at a time that anyone can really attend.
Which is why the virtual option is, I think, a bit of a game changer, because you don't have to be down at City Hall. You can arrange to call in or be on video.
They're still working.
I know it's not a perfect process. There are times in the evening. Public hearings are always done in the evening for that particular reason. There's
Okay,
also
are you having
community
any this year?
councils. There's also community councils that happen. There's
Are you having any this year?
any community
with specific-
councils? Community councils happen regularly.
Specific for input on the budget.
Specific for input on the budget is the budget committee, and the process right now is to participate in person, virtually, or in council chambers,
We've gone through that, but you're not making it easy for people.
or to send in written correspondence.
This is my point, that people don't feel that their voices are heard, that we don't have the opportunity for our voices to be heard. This $318 million that Tony was talking about, and I must say, Ed, Tony, and Jim, I agree with them 100%. And if you canvass the people of HRM, the majority of HRM agrees with them, not you guys. This $318, that's the proposed capital investment for 2025-26. What big ticket items are in that?
Gosh, there's several big ticket items in that.
All right, name
I'd
them,
have to go back in the capital budget. There's everything from
you
roadworks
must
to
have one off the top of your head.
sidewalks. Yeah, roadwork, sidewalks, traffic calming. Those are all in the capital budget.
Bike lanes?
Yeah, there's a bike lane. There is the bike lane down University to Morse. That one is in there.
Right, and the roundabout on Oakland Road and Carteret, right?
Yeah, I tend to pay.
How much is that going to cost?
I do not have the budget in front of me at this moment to quote that number.
Do you have any idea, roughly?
But I'd be happy. If you want to get back to me, I'd be happy to look that up for you and get you that information.
So here we go again. We're talking budget. You're deliberating the budget, and yet when people ask you how the money's being spent, you guys never have an answer.
Well, it is a line item on something quite specific, Chris, you're asking about. You wouldn't expect her to come in here and know how much a bike lane costs on a certain part of that to me, it's very specific.
But Todd, these guys are deliberating that. They should know this kind of stuff. Are they not paying attention to what they're reading?
Well,
that's the thing that, Todd, please, that's the thing that frustrates taxpayers, is that we can never seem to get an answer. There's no transparency with this council or any other council in the past, for that matter. It's so hard to get information out of them. It's always, if you contact me or send me an email, I'll be happy to look that up for you. I can appreciate that, but I'm not asking for so many pennies to the dollar. Roughly how much? And when you're going through this, you should know these things, roughly what they're going to cost, because we want to know these things.
Chris, I believe the bike lane, the AAA bikeways, I believe it's $10 million.
$10 million?
Yes.
Okay, that's a nice to have, like Tony said. It's not a need. How about sticking to the needs, the priority of the taxpayers, not the nice to have? We can't afford the nice to haves, you guys. And how about the tank? $600,000 for a tank. Have you approved that yet?
Okay.
I'm calling it a tank, the armored vehicle.
Yeah.
That has not been approved yet.
Are you going to
it's been
approve
approved
it?
in principle
Yes or no, Patty, for you?
until the budget is decided in April. Nothing is really approved. The
Are you voting yes or no?
Okay, listen, I'm actually, I have to end the segment up because we're up against it. We're up against the break hard,
Okay.
so I apologize. Thanks for coming in, Patty. I appreciate it. I wish I had more time for you. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Todd. Always a pleasure.
Okay, John, thanks for coming in, and congratulations on your Eagles.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
All right, that's John Young, that's Patty Cuttell, and we'll take your calls when we come back.
Thanks.
All right, what is on your mind on this Monday? 902-405-6000. Give us a call, 902-405-6000. U.S. President Donald Trump at it again, said he will formally announce a 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports beginning today, including for Canada and Mexico. Trump made the comments at a news conference aboard Air Force One as he traveled to New Orleans to watch the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Eagles. And also comments, U.S. President Donald Trump said he's serious about wanting Canada to become the 51st state in an interview that aired Sunday during the Super Bowl pre-show. Yeah, it is, Trump told Fox News when asked whether his talk of annexing Canada is a real thing. As Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently suggested, he says, I think Canada would be much better off being the 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada. And I'm not going to let that happen, he said. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially a subsidy to Canada? So one of the questions that I will ask is, do you think that it's possible that Canada will ever become the 51st state? First of all, it's ludicrous to think that if we were annexed by the United States, that we would simply be just one large state. That doesn't make any sense due to the massive geography that we're discussing. Well, for the purpose of the conversation, we'll call it that at this point. So do you think that it's possible for Canada? Will it ever be that Canada will become the 51st state? And what would have to fall into place to make that happen? And I would suggest that outside of military intervention or a military takeover, and I say that now, I don't anticipate that happening, but I guess you never really know, do you? But outside of that, what could lead to that happening? And I would say that a complete economic collapse would be what it would take. A total economic collapse. And could a hostile U.S. government make that happen? And Donald Trump's already said that is his intention. Or that was one of his intentions, was an economic takeover of this country through hostile tariffs. What are your thoughts on this? Does this concern you folks? I mean, it's funny how we react as a population. We all get up in arms over something, and then Donald Trump gives us a 30-day reprieve, and we all kind of exhale as if to think that this problem's going away. It's not going away. Donald Trump is not going to let this go. He's going to continue to talk about this for as long as he has the authority and power and position to do so. He's going to hang this over our heads. So what do we need to do as a government? What do you expect of your government to do? How can we rid ourselves of this threat? 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. It's hard to believe that we're even having to talk about this. 902-405-6000. So what are your thoughts on Donald Trump and his continued rumblings about Canada and complaining about Canada getting a great deal and how the U.S. is subsidizing us to the tune of $200 billion a year, saying that they don't need anything that we have? None of that is true, by the way. None of that is true. It's completely uneducated comments. 902-405-6000. So what are your thoughts on that or anything else that you've got on your mind? Again, 902-405-6000. Paulette's a first-time caller, so we'll throw Paulette on first. Go ahead, Paulette.
Okay, I'm a little nervous, but I wrote it down.
Okay.
Trump isn't friends with Putin, and I do believe that he wants America to become a communist country because he often said he didn't want any more voting. And I think also Trump is using Canada and Mexico to scare the rest of the world. That's what I believe. And Canadians better sit back and think about this. We have free medical and everything. Look what the states have. The states really, I think, is in a mess. And he's just trying to scare the rest of the world with Canada and Mexico. That's my opinion.
Okay, well, thanks, Paulette. Call again, 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Hello, Bill.
How you doing, Todd?
I'm okay. You?
Could be better. Dragging. Anyway, Todd, to give me a little space on Trump, I'd like to say about your prediction.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, we're what I'm talking about is the war over there, of course, with Russia and Ukraine. Now, what we kind of look hard at. There's not a question whether you like Trump or not like him. We're talking about getting some problems solved here, which is the big one is Ukraine. So what you got from the beginning, what a lot of people don't realize, that Putin went to Ukraine and said, if you sign the agreement that you won't join NATO, I'll leave you alone. Okay? Now that's a fact. But he didn't sign, so Russia invaded. And the reason Russia done that was because it was the former part of Russia. But the big thing was it was limiting access to water from each of Russia. Russia was getting squeezed more and more with NATO countries. So, okay, now we got the big war. Everybody costing a fortune there, Canada, the States, and then lives and so on. So now we're down to the point about 3 years they're fighting back and forth. Russia's got part of Ukraine. So what's going to happen here is Trump's going to chase down everybody, and he's a major player with NATO. He's going to squeeze them. He's going to go at every one of them, Russia and Ukraine, to get this settled one way, shape, or form. The only area that's going to be a problem, that's going to be the hardest to solve, is the occupied part of Russia, of Ukraine, that Russia has now. What to do with that? That can't go back to, like, Russia can't keep that. Ukraine can't keep it. It's going to have to be something neutral. So I predict that this war in Russia and Ukraine will be over before the end of this month. That's my prediction there. And for what do you think? What's your?
Well, I have no idea. I wouldn't make such a bold prediction that it's going to be over by the end of the month. I thought Donald Trump said that it was going to be over the first day he took up power. That he'd solve it day one, didn't he?
Well, that's Trump, I guess. But
yeah.
The thing with this, regardless if you like him, don't like him, whatever it is, if he pulls this off, his status is going to go up big in the world. Period.
Yeah.
And then the next step, of course, is over there in the Holy Land. But this one right there, I think he can just simply say, we're not going to supply you anymore to the Ukraine if you don't settle, and squeeze the rest of his partners in the NATO, and maybe even get out of NATO. He's the one man right now that can solve this. Now you just mark my words. By the end of the month, it'll be over.
Okay, Bill. Thanks for the call, pal. All right, we'll hold our breath and see. Take care. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Dave, hello.
How you doing today?
Well, you?
Oh, not too bad. So the Trump taking over Canada, you don't think that'll ever happen?
I didn't say I don't think it'll ever happen. What I did say is what would have to happen in order for it to happen.
Well, I think that people want to stop and think about maybe they may be better off if he did. Look at the mess Canada's in with what we've had going on.
You don't think that the United States is in a mess right now?
I'm not sure that they're in as big a mess as we are.
Well, it sounds to me like you're pretty predisposed to how you feel, to your opinion. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Predisposed to your opinion?
No. Listen. It's pretty evident that you haven't thought this through. Why do you want to be a part of the United States?
Well, we're in a part of a country that can't even make up their own mind on how to set their own time clock. They have to look at the U.S. to set a time clock.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we can't give up daylight saving unless the U.S. does.
Is that your biggest argument that you're coming out with? Is that your big gun that you?
That's a big thing.
Tell me what's the main reason why? What's the main reason why you want to be a member of the United States? What's the main reason why?
The main reason?
Yeah.
Because they don't pay through the nose for everything down there like we do here.
Yeah,
and we don't have the very best of everything here that people think we do, but we pay over. I'm telling you, if you look at what we pay, I bet you we pay 60% of our paycheck goes to the government.
Yeah, we're heavily taxed.
Supposed to take care of us.
Yeah, we're heavily taxed.
They don't. We're not taken care of when we retire. We're not taken care of when.
Are Americans taken care of when they retire? Do you think?
No,
absolutely not.
They're not promised that either, are they?
Well, I don't know. Are they or aren't they? I don't know. I'm not an American.
Well, now there you go. See, you don't know, do you? Well, no, they're not. They have to take out their own retirement packages.
Yeah,
and they have to save their own money.
And they do have.
The government's not taking it all from you.
They do have.
Easier to save.
They do have social. They do have security for old age security in the United States.
I know they do, Todd. I know they have certain things.
Yeah.
but they're not promised being taken care of.
Have you, and Dave, are we promised? Has anybody promised? Nobody's promised anything, are they?
We were promised that when we paid into a pension, we were going to have a livable pension.
No, I don't remember that promise. I never remember in my life thought, oh, I'm going to be okay on CPP and OAS and I'm good for life.
Well,
I never once thought that.
You should be very good on CPP, I can tell you that.
Why?
Because the government pays nothing into it, but they take all out of us.
No, that's not true. The government pays into it.
No, they don't.
The government doesn't make any CPP contributions.
No.
You know that for sure?
Your employer does, and you do.
You know that for sure?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, all I can tell you is this, Dave. If you want to look at what Donald Trump is doing to the White House and doing to the public sector, and completely gouging every office that and Elon Musk has been given carte blanche to do whatever he wants to completely gouge the public sector, widespread layoffs, a completely unadulterated, unfiltered, and it's out of control what's happening. Is that really what you want for a government, what's going on right now in the United States? Is that, be careful what you wish for.
A whole lot worse than what we got.
Well, look, I'm not a fan at all of the Trudeau Liberals at all.
Our government's completely raping us and taking everything they want and giving it to people that, if you don't work for stuff, you don't deserve my paycheck. That's what Canada's all about right now.
It is. Have you ever been on social or on unemployment insurance in your life before?
No,
Dave?
I haven't.
Well, you're lucky. Well, you're very lucky because I have. Okay.
Have you?
Yes, I have. And are you suggesting that I'm lazy or something because I've needed EI?
I'm not saying you're lazy. Some people need EI. I'm not talking about EI.
Okay, what are you talking about then?
Come on.
What are you talking about
Let's
then?
go on to the welfare. Let's go on to these guys walking up and down the street and living in a tent. Come on. Why do they deserve a home for nothing when they live in a tent?
Well, if they have a home for nothing, then why are they living in a tent?
Well, we're struggling to make them all a home, aren't we?
And we should.
Every government's taking our money to make homes to get rid of we'd want to get rid of all the homeless. You're never going to get rid of homeless.
And Dave, where you suggest that the United States is the bastion of greatness, there's plenty of.
I didn't say nothing was great.
You said there's plenty of encampments.
It won't be any worse than what we've got.
There's plenty of encampments in the United States. I can assure you of that. They're all over the place.
I didn't tell you there wasn't.
Okay, thanks for the call. 902-405-6000. You want to live in the States? Go there. I think you might be surprised that it ain't all what you think it is. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. And when it comes to CPP contributions, Phil says the government contributes to the Canada Pension Plan through investment income. The CPP is also funded by contributions from employees, employers, and the self-employed individuals. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. Let's see here. Where are we going next? 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Daryl, hello.
Hello there. How are you?
Well, you?
Not too bad. Just calling. I was just listening to your last caller there in terms of the joining the U.S. And I think part of the problem here is that the value proposition in Canada has become so poor that joining the U.S. becomes attractive to some people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of issues in terms of the U.S. and our national identity and all that kind of stuff. And personally, I would never, ever, ever join the U.S. because part of my identity is not being a U.S. citizen. But there's a big but there. Is the value proposition that used to be in Canada doesn't exist anymore. Your other caller is right. We pay ridiculous amounts in taxes, and we get such poor health care. We get such poor infrastructure. We get government waste everywhere. We pay into CPP, and, it doesn't pay for retirement anymore. It's just so frustrating is that we could be really good, but we're not. And
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I can see where the other caller is coming from.
I get people's frustration, and I take his point, but the idea that people think that living if the United States were to annex us, it would solve most of our problems and things would be wonderful here. I don't believe that. I think it would be an orphaned state, and it would be a desperate situation. And I think, quite honestly, how the United States is and how the Trump Musk team right now is doing business is scary. Quite seriously, I think it's scary.
It is scary. It is very scary. It's very, authoritarian. But I think part of the problem is that they're not stupid, and that the timing of this is not wrong in the sense that we've got these major problems here in Canada in terms of that value proposition. So they can take advantage of that. Yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right, Daryl. We have all types of challenges and issues and people. And look, we know that this Liberal government is at the end of its rope. And this is part of the problem is that we need a new government. We desperately need a change in government here in Canada.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Todd. What I'm fundamentally worried about is that we might be too far gone. Yeah. And it's sad to say is that even if we do completely change track, we are running the risk because we can't afford it. I mean, you look at our deficits and our debt, we're getting close to, Argentina levels where our currency is not going to be worth anything, if we keep pushing this because we're going to have to keep borrowing. Yeah, that's true. They talk about bailout packages and all that kind of stuff. $10 day childcare and the dentist program and all that kind of stuff. They're great. They're great programs, and it's good to have, but we can't afford it. Yeah. And
the U.S. debt situation is desperate as well, though, Daryl. I mean, they've got to vote every year to raise the debt ceiling just to pay their government bills on an annual basis. So the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that they have in debt is not a good situation either.
Correct, but their GDP is an awful lot stronger than ours.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So if they really focused on it, I'm not saying this government is going to, that's for damn sure, but if they really focused on it, they could actually grow out of that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm fundamentally worried we can't. But
okay, anyway. Daryl, thanks for the call, pal.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000, that's the way to reach us. Again, 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, taking your calls, 902-405-6000. Can you love your country and hate your government? Can you do the same thing? Is it possible to do that? I think that it is. I think that many of us do that. I mean, I think that when you cross over to having absolute and utter disdain for your government, and when you suddenly that starts transferring over into how you feel about your country in general, and the people who live in your country, I think that's a challenge, right? So when you think of country, what do you think of? You say I'm Canadian. Does that mean that Justin Trudeau is the current prime minister? Does that mean you are defaulting to liking him? Or can you be a proud Canadian and dislike your government? And I would suggest that you can and should. I mean, in your lifetime, you're going to spend a period of that time, if you're politically engaged at all, unsatisfied with what your government does and how your government responds and spends your money and taxes you. But this is all reached fever pitch now with Donald Trump. He has elevated the game. He's elevated the game and put everything up to 11, to use that term. And this 51st state thing, folks, is, any way you want to crack it up, is offensive. This is offensive language, in my opinion. I think it is offensive. And we as Canadians should not put up with it. So how do we not put up with it? Well, we do what we need to do to fight for our country. Because that's what it is. It's a battle for our country, for our sovereignty. Do you care about your sovereignty as a country? Do you really want to be a part of the United States? I would say be careful what you wish for. In many, many ways. And we would be an orphaned state is what we would be. If we capitulate it economically, and if it ever came to pass that we said, okay, we're giving in, we're all yours, U.S. Trump land, take us over, mega. We would be more of an afterthought than you could ever dream of being an afterthought. And our resources would be, talk about getting raped. They would rape the land. I mean, have you heard what Elon Musk has talked about when it comes to regulation? I understand that you need to deregulate, or regulations, over-regulating anything is not good. But government has a role in regulating. Food safety, drug safety, railways, environment. I'm sorry, but you have to follow rules. You cannot just have industry running roughshod over everything with profit being the final determining factor. If you look right now at what's happening in the United States, to me it is a scary, scary situation that I want nothing to do with. Absolutely nothing to do with it. 902-405-6000. Ken, hello.
Yeah, good morning, Todd. How are you?
I'm well, you?
I'm good. Just a couple of points on the U.S. Trying to annex Canada. I've worked all over the world and have a perspective on the good and bad things about countries. Canada rates very high from all the places I've been. And as far as the U.S. annexing of Canada, this is a wake-up call, and I hope our politicians and our people will understand that and take action. We've spent the last 10 years at least with our heads in the sand as far as it goes to resource development and managing our finances. And Trump smells weakness, and he's on us. And if we don't stand up and take firm action as a country, we're doomed.
Okay, what's firm action look like?
I think it's the country getting together, the people getting together, getting a political will in place to understand that it's not a perfect world where we can carry on thinking that if we don't develop anything and we only focus on the environment, that everything is going to be okay. Unfortunately, that's not the world we're in. So I think we need to, and I hope it's not too late, but we need to start looking at shoring up our industry and managing the environment along with it. But we can't keep bowing down to the few minorities that are roadblocking us being able to be a viable country.
Okay, Ken, appreciate the call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care at 902-405-6000. Let's see. Let's talk to Bernie. Hello, Bernie.
Hi, Todd. How you doing?
Well, you?
I agree with your little speech there a few minutes ago. I think you're bang on what we are as a country in Canada. I just remember that 44% of the Conservatives were surveyed across this country wanted Trump to come to power. So you be careful what you hope for. As far as Canada goes, the United States never had a socialist movement in their country. They always had two right-wing parties that were capitalist bent and everything. Canada has that ingredient that it makes it. There's three forms of government power in the country, and that's what unites us. As far as a couple of callers back there, so that's why we should be very, very, very well aware that this idea of taxation and everything can slip into a conversation and decide the fate of the country. This country is great. This country has its problems, and we can solve them. Elon Musk is estimated to be worth $400 billion. He never paid a cent of taxes, and that's what the whole battle comes down to. Who are the wealthy that are not paying their taxes in this country in order to alleviate the middle class and the lower classes from paying the whole shot? But I think Canada's on the right road now. I think this is a wake-up call, and I think there's better days ahead.
Okay, Bernie, thanks for the call. Take care. 902-405-6000. Let's hope that there's better days ahead. Charlie, hello.
Hey, Todd. Hello. Yeah, proud Canadian, pissed off. I'm so upset. You know, like my wife and I were in Maine on the weekend visiting our daughter. And a few times I made it a purpose to wear my Roots Canadian jacket, and it had a Canadian patch at the bottom of the sleeve. And they actually came up to me and said, "We love Canadians. We are so upset what our president's doing. He did not campaign on what he's throwing out there," right? And I think that, you know, these people that call up, and I've been listening for the last few weeks, and I so pissed off that Canadians would actually think they would sell our country to America and have a person run our country, a man like that. You know, these people that think that we'd be better off in America, and I've been going to the States since I was a little kid. And let me tell you something, these people need to start singing Old Canada and pay very careful attention to the lyrics.
How so?
Well, because, these people calling up and, we'd be better off, maybe we'd be better off with becoming the 51st state, Like, where is their loyalty to the flag and the fallen?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Charlie. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Take care. All right. Take care. 902-405-6000. Mark, hello.
Hello?
Hi there. Go ahead.
Hey, Todd. I just want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. I'm a huge football fan, and I picked the Eagles as my team probably 27 years ago when I was a kid. And it was a huge day for my family. We all dressed up. We had green pancakes. We had Philly cheesesteaks. We did every good luck charm possible, and it seemed to work. And it's an amazing lifelong memory that we're all going to have. It was so awesome. I know it's probably hard for Kansas City, wondering what happened there, but I felt it in my bones, and it was amazing.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I know that being a lifelong fan of a team and having it win is a real thrill. I can only say that through my New York Yankees. I've not had a championship with the Leafs, and certainly not the Jets. And so, yeah, congratulations. It's funny how an allegiance to a team can make you feel so good, when it wins, because it doesn't happen very often, I suppose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it kind of stems from enjoying the sport, and maybe we don't have time to watch all the games, but if we have one team we can learn and follow and kind of just root with for the good times and the bad, it makes it fun. And then the more family members that hop on with you, you ride it for the good and the bad. It's huge. It's fun. It's like a little event. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, congratulations, Mark. Right on.
Thanks very much.
All right, take care, pal. Thanks.
Listen to the call-in all the time.
Thanks, buddy. Take care. 902-405-6000. Stephen, hello.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Listen, we're going around in circles here. Everybody's, saying, "Oh, this is going to be bad for us." How much bad or worse can it be right now? I mean, this government, since the 80s, has been raping the people. It's just pathetic.
Which government? Which government has been raping the people?
Both governments, PCs, NDP, the Liberals. The people have nothing. They have no say at all. Look, we don't even have a government right now, right? Nobody's saying anything. They're all locked. We're locked out, so they're not doing anything. Mm-hmm. And then we got somebody coming along and say, "Oh, we're going to do this to you," and everybody goes, "Oh, well, we're not going to let them do that." Good Lord, and how many bureaucrats did Trudeau hire in the last 10 years? What was it? 10,000?
Yeah.
They just take. And everybody goes, "Where's your loyalty to Canada?" Where's the government's loyalty to the people? We've got all these resources. Nobody wants to throw them out there and make some money for the country. Mm-hmm. It's just pathetic. They deserve what they get. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks for the call. 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. (902-405-6000). That is the way to take part. Look, I get it, folks. People are upset and disgruntled and unsatisfied and all of that with the current state of our government, and I am too. I absolutely am. And I think that they made lots of mistakes, and we have lost our way as a country. But I don't think that means chuck it all away and throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, to use a bad analogy. I don't think that that's the response that we should have, and I think that we can learn from this, and we can rebuild from this, and we can figure it out. And look, this is probably a great wake-up call that we're getting here, that we can have a better country than we have, and we can better utilize in a realistic way our natural resources, which we should be using. There's now talk about Energy East pipeline is back in the mix now. As 2/3 say they would support the renewal of Energy East, according to some recent polling, which we're doing stories on today. Angus Reid, natural gas, liquefied natural gas, recognizing the opportunity there. Our premier of this province has brought up extraction of natural resources. We can do a lot better as a country, and we need to do a lot better as a country. So thank you, Donald Trump, for your wake-up call, because we needed it. But it doesn't mean that we're going to be better off being a member of the United States, especially under a Donald Trump-led United States. It's nothing I want anything to do with. Nothing to do with. We don't have to throw it all away. What we need to do is get our act together. And we can get our act together. I think, to me, that is the deferred response, other than just to say, let's chuck it all and be part of the United States, the 51st state, and do it under economic pressure. What a way to welcome a new cohort of voters and people into your country. We're going to starve you out economically until you capitulate, and then you can join our State of the Union, and we'll treat you well then. I don't think so. 902-405-6000. That is the way to reach us. Bernie, hello. Hi, Bernie. Okay, put Bernie on hold and go back to him. Elizabeth, hello.
Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm well. You?
I'm doing fine, thanks. I just wanted to call and to your comment that you liked oversight of the government. And everybody's saying it's a wake-up call and like we're getting closer to the United States, like acting like the United States. Well, I just want to remind everybody that the federal government, both parties, both the PCs and the Liberals, are currently gutting your public service. They right now, the immigration IRCC has cut 3,000 jobs. CRA is cutting jobs. ESDC is cutting jobs. And they're not managers. They are the frontline staff who are taking your phone calls, processing your applications, and making all of taxpayers' lives easier. Benefits are going to get cut, and it's here. We already are acting like America. And I know that taxpayers think the government is overinflated and we've had too many people. Yes, we do, because of COVID. But remember, everything is backed by the federal government, and we need public servants. When public servants were sent back to the office 3 days a week, they were maintaining billions of dollars worth of leases and real estate. We have billions of dollars tied up in buildings for the simple fact of having public servants to go into the office for 3 days a week. This can be managed by mandating certain government areas to work from home, shrink the leases, shrink the buildings, and that will alleviate money. It will free up money to have people keep their jobs providing critical services.
Elizabeth, don't you think AI is eventually going to replace a lot of those jobs?
No, because AI is only as good as the information available. Human input will always be required to A, create the data, B, analyze to make sure that it's correct, and C, to apply it where necessary. For example, AI can't write a speech for a minister and collect everybody's, like all of the accurate sentiments and facts. It has to be proofwritten.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about frontline. I'm talking about CRA or you call to get a passport, and I'm not minimizing those jobs, by the way, when I say that. Mm-hmm. But you're obviously can have people who can do the programming and do all of that, but a lot of that frontline stuff, I believe AI will eventually, and not just in the public sector, I think in the private sector as well, and it's already happening. It's going to a lot of those jobs are going to get replaced, and I'm not rooting for that. By the way, I just think that's just how it is.
Well, talk about the CRA, for example, people are mad that they don't have frontline service that they can never see a person. I cannot imagine a taxpayer would be pleased to know that a machine is taking their application, it's analyzing it, not contributing any human element to it, assessment, compassion, empathy.
What is the compassion and the empathy? Where does that come in? The rules of the CRA, aren't they?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you are a certain type of client of the CRA, I'm not going to get into details, you have the opportunity to talk to a CRA officer to talk about your situation and apply judgment, and which AI does not do. AI does not apply judgment at all.
No, but Elizabeth, if something got escalated, then that could get escalated to that point. All I'm saying is that I think it's naive, Elizabeth, to think in the next 10 years that AI is not going to have a bigger footprint when it comes to Canada's public sector, because I think that's naive to believe that.
It will, but it's not here yet. It's not time to cut the public service today until AI is perfected. And not to mention, AI is screwing our environment. It takes so much energy to build AI and supply AI, and we're just not there yet. We're not at the right balance. Yes, I agree with you, Todd. There's no question. I'm not naive about it. I'm just trying to protect my fellow public servants.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to be really careful that where it's all or nothing with the AI conversation today.
Yeah, okay.
Slow, measured approach, for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate the call. Take care.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. Gloria, hello.
Hi, Todd.
Hi there.
It's great to be a Canadian today.
For sure.
And to live in the best country in the world. I mean, we have problems, we have situations, but look at it all around the world, the problems. And I bet the people calling in saying they would be an American have never defended this country. How many people went out and defended this country to keep the great flag flying? Sure, we have problems, but who's responsible for the problems? We are.
Yeah.
We put the elected people in there. You know, we don't vote. We don't look to see how good they are or how bad they are, because we voted Liberal or Tory all our lives, and we're going to continue to vote that way. So, you know, Canadians have to sit up and take notice. And I would never, ever, ever become an American. And what are your morals when you would like to go down and be an American with Trump as your president? That's the question I have.
Well, yeah, I think it'd be a pretty scary situation at this point.
The way they treat people.
Well, especially you imagine an orphan state like Canada, we would be less than an afterthought in their minds.
Well, they would just rape all our minerals and everything, and we'd be the orphans.
Yeah, we'd be the orphans. Absolutely.
So I think we're great, and let's just get our act together. And, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
There you go. Thank you, Gloria.
Bye.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. Kathy, hello.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to express an opinion regarding cross-border trade with, cross-province trade. I think that we're going to be able to help our country by trying to sell things from other provinces and do trade that way. Plus, trade in Europe is going to help us. We need to trade with other countries more, so we're not so dependent on the USA. And I also would like to express my opinion that I would never want someone like Trump to be a leader. And it will never happen for Canada. It would be the worst thing possible. That's all.
Okay, thanks for the call. Take care. Thanks for the calls, everybody. Look, like I said, I just, the circumstances are a little too drastic for me, perhaps being 55 years old, to accept that we would ever become a part of the United States. It would, in order for it to happen, we would have to have pretty much complete economic collapse here in this country. And some people say that we've already had that. But I think this is a good wake-up call for us as a country to get our act together, to realize that we do have to develop natural resources, that we do have to have more responsible government, more of a streamlined government, that we can be better. Let's take advantage of the opportunity to improve. That is where we're at. Let's take advantage of the opportunity And when you've got the President of the United States just routinely quipping about us being less than even a country at this point, he considers it a joke. He really thinks of us as a joke. Is this the type of guy that we want to run into the arms of? Be careful whose arms you run into, folks. 902 or 4. Anyway, no, that's the calls are done. I get carried away. Sorry. That'll be the number for tomorrow. We'll take your calls again tomorrow between 11 and 12. When we come back, we're going to talk with Sylvain Charlebois about supply management. We'll be back. All right, joining us is Sylvain Charlebois, Senior Director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Sylvain, hello. Thanks for doing this today, of course.
Hey, Todd. How's it going?
It's going all right, you?
Good. It's breezy, -8 in Montreal this morning.
There you go. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the supply management and the battle with the U.S. And supply management is front and center at this point. When it comes to a lot of this, I would think it would be as precarious as it's ever been since its inception in the 70s. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. A lot of people are talking about supply management, but they don't necessarily understand the policy.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
and they think that Mr. Trump will actually aim at supply management during talks, trade talks that are looming, I suppose, to review or renew the U.S. And see, I'm not necessarily. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think that this is very much about interprovincial trade barriers. I have to tell you, Todd, I've been impressed with the media and Canadians starting to look into these barriers. I've been banging on that drum for 25 years, saying Canada would be 10 times more powerful economically than it is now if only we addressed interprovincial trade barriers, and finally we're talking about it. But at the center of it all is really supply management, because the quota allocation system that we have, a lot of people think, well, it's the federal government that does that. No, it's actually not true. It's provinces are responsible. And if you look at who has more power, and I want to focus on dairy here, because dairy is 80% of supply management, and with eggs and the feather people, chicken, it's just a different industry altogether. But when you look at dairy in particular, there's an absolute power imbalance between Quebec and all the other provinces. 40% of all the milk and butterfat produced in Canada is produced in Quebec, with only 20% of the population. And that's why the subject has been so political. And every time politicians are saying, you know what, we should look into this, when they start to understand the politics of it, they just walk away. It's been like that for 50 years.
All right, let's have a history lesson on supply management and what it was intended to do, because I think that's an important part of the conversation.
So in 1972, there were milk surpluses all over the place. Farmers were producing to make money, but they weren't getting a fair price. So they established a supply management system that allows farmers to produce what we need. So at the federal level, they survey farmers to understand what the cost to produce milk is, and they set a fair price nationally. But provincially, they listen to the Canadian Dairy Commission. That's the Crown Corporation that was created back in 1972 under the Canadian Dairy Commission Act. And provinces are responsible to set quotas based on domestic demand. But of course, over time, a lot of processors actually migrated to Quebec or central Canada. And as you know, Todd, we lost a lot of processors as a result in our own province, Nova Scotia. We had 4 processing plants back in 1980. We're down to 1, basically. And we had 800 dairy farmers in 1980 in Nova Scotia. We're down to, I think, 130 now. Mm-hmm. So you can tell that regions have paid a dear price. Nova Scotia and New Brunswick have paid a dear price due to a supply management system that was intended to support regions, making sure that our system is stable. But really, when you look at it, it doesn't really allow for the industry to grow. It doesn't allow for innovation to prosper. In fact, in Ontario, we just saw the Chinese investing $300 million to build a dairy processing plant. Mm-hmm. China investing in Ontario because we couldn't do it. There's no strategy around dairy at all because it's all about supply management.
All right. So what's the defense of supply management?
So the defense basically is the value of quota. So in 1972, these quotas were given out for free. Mm-hmm. Okay. What they didn't anticipate is that these quotas would gain in value. So right now, Todd, the value of all the quotas we have in Canada is worth $26 billion. Mm. Yeah. And so when farmers go to the bank, they use quotas as collateral. Mm-hmm. And one of the big lenders is Farm Credit Canada, another Crown corporation. Mm. And they're into the dairy sector. This is all of us. So there actually are in the system as much as dairy farmers because they've actually lended, I think, over $10 billion to dairy farmers. So for people out there saying we should abolish the system, I don't think it's the right idea because we're going to be paying $26 billion and FCC is going to be a hit and the system is not going to be proper and probably overnight we're going to start drinking American milk. Yeah. So we need a better strategy. Right now, all we have is inertia and we have a new tenant at the White House that intends to disrupt our own system in Canada with no strategy, and that's really the big problem that we have.
Yeah, and look, it's also it's difficult to grow. I think going back to the concept is to know for safe supply because we know that farming has its ebbs and flows and ups and downs, right? And that's why quota it was part of this in order to maintain the food supply for the public. That's a key component to all of this, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. I think. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to open up the system to, entrepreneurs out there who want to produce dairy, want to make good cheese. Yeah. If you want to make cheese in Nova Scotia, you got to beg and scream for some milk, and you have to pay a really high price. Canada has the most expensive industrial milk in the world. By far. So to make cheese, that's why cheese is so expensive, because milk is expensive. Yeah. If you actually make it a little bit more competitive, we wouldn't be threatened by Donald Trump and all the things that he's saying about dairy.
All right, so where does this all go? Do you think that at some point, in order to strike a deal, some type of trade deal, whatever it looks like, that supply management, it's got to go?
No, I don't think so. But there are things that we're going to have to concede. For example, more market access. I think that Donald Trump will actually be going after market access, more market access into Canada
which, pardon the interruption, neuters in some ways supply management, does it not?
It creates a breach, but if you keep it reasonable, let's say, for example, next to 3-4%, that's fine. But here's the other thing you don't know, Todd, is that we have allowed 3.5% of the milk into Canada. So 3.5% of demand for milk in Canada should be American now, should be supported by American milk, but it's not. Why? Because we agreed to give import quotas to certain companies like Saputo and Lactalis, but they're not interested in importing more American cheese and dairy products. So they're not doing it. And that's why Americans are upset with us, because we're not honoring our word with the USMCA. So not only that Donald Trump will actually want more market access, but he wants us to honor the deal we actually made in 2020 as well. So that's why I absolutely appreciate why Americans are upset with us, because there's a lot of things that aren't said that really would tick off Americans. But at the end of the day, we need a more competitive dairy sector while keeping our quota system in place. That's really what we need to do.
All right. So can we do that? Is this something that we can pull off, do you think?
Quick solution?
Yeah.
Simple. You deharmonize the allocation process for quotas. So in other words, if someone in Nova Scotia wants to buy quotas out of Quebec, they should be allowed to. Right now, you're not allowed to. But here's what's going to happen to quota values. Do you think what's going to happen? Do you know what's going to happen to quota values in Quebec?
Go down.
Go down.
Yeah.
So that's why premiers always walk away from this deal, because they know their farmers will scream. But if you harmonize the quota allocation system federally, you're basically allowing the money and the innovation to flow coast to coast. But right now, Quebec controls everything, and that needs to be broken up.
And will that be broken up? Do you think this is are we on that trajectory?
Well, Minister Hanan and Minister Ning both have said that supply management is off the table, and they've said it last week. So when I hear a minister say interprovincial bears are going to be eliminated within 30 days,
yeah, right,
I do not believe it.
No, not with that language, for sure.
Nope, not at all, not a second. Because if you're committed to do this, you're committed. Because, for example, if you have an abattoir, if you're slaughtering, say, beef in Nova Scotia, you can't. If you're provincially licensed, you can't sell it to New Brunswick. You can't sell it to PEI. Okay, there's no mutual recognition. And so the beef guys will say, okay, we're going to allow beef from Nova Scotia to be sold in New Brunswick if it's provincial license. But they're going to say, well, what about the dairy guys? Why aren't you dealing with them? And that's why it never goes anywhere. Until you commit to making Canada an absolutely free-flowing market coast to coast, nobody's going to move.
Interesting. Sylvain, always appreciate it. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll do it again.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Sylvain Charlebois, Senior Director, Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Enough is enough. Stop the destruction of Halifax's built heritage. That when we come back. Emma Lang is the Executive Director of the Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia. Emma, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so you have another project in which you feel as though needs our attention, and it's let's read a bit from your release. You said, yet another important historic building is under threat of demolition in downtown Halifax, this time 1717 Brunswick Street, the former Halifax Alehouse. Give us a history lesson on this structure, please.
So this building is really interesting and has a lot of connections to a lot of folks. So it was originally built as a Salvation Army Hall to provide support for the folks who lived in a neighborhood called the Upper Streets, which was a working-class neighborhood sort of between Grand Parade and the Citadel. Then by the 1960s, it had become a print shop, and then I think it was about 20-odd years ago, it became the bar that folks know. So this building has gone through a lot of different lives and served a lot of different communities. It was also built by a pretty famous architect whose work is seen across the city. And we learned last week that this building is likely going to be demolished. And that's pretty problematic, because not only does this building have a lot of life left to give, it has a really important connection to understanding the history of downtown as a place where people used to live and work, not just work or be tourists. And it's one of very few older buildings that people can see directly from the Citadel. So when we're talking about the importance of, say, our tourism industry, this building being lost is really going to negatively impact that, because the story that so many of our visitors see is it's just not going to be tangible anymore. They're not going to have it in front of their faces. But also, this is a building that, it has already proven that you can do so many things with it. It can serve so many functions. So throwing it away is just a massive waste, and we're going to lose a major part of our history and one of the last buildings that tells the story of this working class neighborhood.
All right, so who's purchased it, and where are we with it right now with plans? Because from what I'm reading here, it's an application for demolition has been put forward, correct?
Yeah, and I'm not sure where it stands right now, but it was purchased by the Ramia Group, and their goal is to demolish both this building and the building that's directly behind it, which is where the keg is. Mm-hmm. And so even if you demolish just the keg building, you'd have a pretty decent-sized lot to build. So part of what we're trying to understand is why would you tear down this wonderful building that a lot of people think is really pretty, aside from anything else, and just toss it away when you could save that building and still build something new and connect the two, as we're seeing happening in a lot of different parts of the city, but also we see happening across the world and across the country. It seems a lost opportunity, to just keep this building alive and save it. We know that there is an economic benefit that comes from having older buildings. Where there are older buildings, people spend more money. There's tons of data that shows that, both visitors, but also folks who work in the neighborhood, who live in the neighborhood. So, if we're talking about the economic value of this lot, without that building, you're definitely going to have economic loss from it. And it's going to hurt other businesses in the neighborhood, because when heritage structures come down, again, you lose that what's called heritage glow, which is the economic benefits that come from older buildings being there.
All right, so what are the plans for it? Does the Ramia Group release its plans other than demolition?
I haven't seen anything. Our assumption is that we'd get another big new box, and we have those. We don't have our gorgeous buildings from the 19th century designed by famous architects that when you stand with them and touch them, you can feel history right there.
Okay, but you talk with the economics of it. If it were viable, then why do you think companies would not be purchasing it and retrofitting it or saving these buildings?
I don't think most companies understand that economic value. I think it doesn't get talked about a lot. I think that there's we all like new things. New things are cool and shiny. I think increasingly we're hearing about how there is an economic value, and certainly the data exists. I think trying to get people on side to really understand that. And what's interesting about this building in particular is that this building has already shown us that you can use it in different ways, right? It was originally a religious organization, then it became a print shop, so kind of an industrial use, and then it's been a bar and a venue. So, I don't understand why, it's such a great, you can build on that history. You can say, okay, so what's its new life? There's also, it should be noted, a major environmental loss that comes when you tear down a building like this. Older buildings are good for the environment. We were all taught, reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, it's not just about scrap paper and tin cans. It's also about buildings. And buildings are a bit bigger than a piece of paper. So when we save them and we put them to new use, we're really benefiting the environment. So in a time when we're talking about how much, in general, as a society and as a community, we value both economic benefits and environmental benefits, why would you throw this in the trash?
Well, again, back to the question, why would we throw it in the trash? You would think that if all this makes sense and what you're saying seems to make sense, and you're obviously quite passionate about it, why would there not be some developers with deep pockets that would recognize the opportunity?
This is our question, and we're hoping that we'll see maybe developers start to take this on board and jump up. Sadly, I can't control the minds of developers. If I had that power, though, I'd probably be out of a job.
Yeah, for sure. So how much is left of old Halifax like this? Not a lot left, is there?
No, and what's interesting on this strip of Brunswick Street, what we have from Spring Garden Road all the way to Portland Place, so past Cogswell, there's only 3 buildings from the 19th century left, save the Citadel and buildings that belong to the Department of National Defense. So we've really, in this neighborhood, lost an astronomical number. In terms of buildings that connect to the history of the upper streets, and the upper streets is a really interesting neighborhood. It has a reputation of being, bars and brothels, but it was much more than that. It was integrated. It was a neighborhood where a lot of people, when they moved in from rural communities, this would have been the neighborhood they first were able to afford to live in. And this building is one of the very few buildings connected to that history that we have left, because in the 60s, most of them were already demolished. And as we know, its sister neighborhood down near where the Cogswell Exchange was, whatever we're calling that now, that neighborhood, also very little of it exists and was preserved. So at this point, we're really, there's not a whole lot left. And there's certainly not a lot left in this section of Brunswick Street. And it's a place where people spend so much time. people spend time who live there. I walk past this building every day. I'm sure lots of other folks do. And we know it's where a lot of our tourists come from. And our tourism industry is the biggest economic driver in this province. It's bigger than any other industry. So these heritage structures, they're really important. So we need folks to step up and say, both the city and developers say, we need this. We're going to keep this because this has benefits. And we're going to think creatively, and we're going to use all of the amazing abilities that we have in this province in terms of creative thinking about buildings and find a use for this so we can have both this building and continue the benefits that it has.
Okay, Emma, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us on.
All right,
Bye.
Take care. You got it. Emma Lang, Executive Director, Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia. When we come back, we're going to talk provincial sports with Ken Bagnell. We'll be back. All right, joining me here in studio is Ken Bagnell, CEO, Canadian Sprot Institute Atlantic. Ken, thanks for coming in today with all your notes. You look like you're ready to go.
Absolutely. Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
Good.
Excellent. And Super Bowl? You watch Super Bowl last night?
I did. It was amazing how good the defense for Philadelphia was and how inept everything offensive for Kansas City. So a little bit of surprise, but
yeah. Well, I mean, look, when you live as charmed a life as the Kansas City Chiefs have, at some point you're going to hit a wall, right?
It is true. It is true.
Just goes to show how difficult it is to have a dynasty, though, in professional sport. Right?
In any sport.
In any sport, yeah.
So
I would say they still qualify as a dynasty, though. They've been in the two in a row. That's the third appearance in a row. They've won, I think, 3 or 4 or whatever. That's dynasty material.
It is. And, at that high level to have that repetition is amazing.
Yeah.
And actually, we saw some of that to happen in Halifax on Thursday night when we saw the U.S. Women's team and the Canadian women's team play hockey in the rivalry series.
Yep.
Unbelievable level of hockey, and those two countries are obviously well ahead of the pack, and they have that exchange. They have a dynasty between them, but they exchange who's at the top of the podium each time. And what an amazing game that was! Blair Turnbull from Stellarton scored. Troy Ryan was behind the bench for the Canadian team from Spryfield. They did lose in overtime, unfortunately, but the energy from the crowd, I just haven't seen anything like that for an awful long time. And, the unique thing was that it was all these young girls holding up signs and screaming and, seeing their heroes play hockey. It's such a rare occurrence to, see amateur sport played here in Halifax, and then at the highest level, have an opportunity to cheer on your heroes. So the environment was amazing, and I hope the PWHL took a look at what Halifax had there and said, wow, that's the type of environment we need for professional hockey moving forward.
Yeah. Do you think the PWHL would have its sights set on, would it be viable here in Halifax?
Well, it definitely would be viable. That's not the question. The question is, do they want to try bigger markets for TV? In the U.S. in particular, or maybe in Vancouver. And I'd imagine they'd have their sites elsewhere. But, if we can put in 10,000 people a night to watch a game, which I think we could in this market, it would be one of the largest, audiences that they'd have for that product. But it is so good at that level. I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes to, how good a product women's hockey is these days, and it's an exciting environment to be involved with. For sure.
I mean, like the bottom line though, you need to have an ownership group that's willing to put the money down, right, and to be able to take that risk.
Yeah, it's interesting. We certainly we're seeing that with the Halifax Tide, with the women's Northern Soccer League, and they're set up for success, and I think they'll have the same result of the fans coming out and respecting the quality of play that's there. I'm really looking forward to how that transitions into their first season. They have ownership who stepped up to take care of that. I do think there's people who would look at a PWHL opportunity here in Halifax and be very positive for that, both people in the community and people from outside the community. So I think that conversation is going to be, more and more prevalent. I mean, we have seen success of the Halifax Wanderers on the men's soccer side, and how much they're ingrained in the community. There is room for more, and those, the opportunity in women's soccer that's coming up this year, maybe with women's hockey in the future, those are good building blocks to communities, with Thunderbirds as well, who are successful at drawing a crowd as well. So our city's big enough to have a lot of options there, but I really like the options of the Tide to provide those role models for upcoming female athletes in the region.
Were you concerned at all about the anthem, the old anthem thing, whether or not they'd be booing or whatever? What was your thoughts going in on that?
Yeah, I was. I can't say concerned. I think it was just interesting to reflect on what happened and what could happen when you were speculating. Obviously, there wasn't the boos that were anticipated by some, and people have a right to express themselves anyway. It's not in disrespect to the athletes who are there. I'm sure they know that, at all the levels. But, the one thing, we can give our friend down south credit for is really, uniting the nation a little bit as far as our own pride, and that doesn't always have to be taken out as a negative to an anthem or something like that, but a pride in what we do. And, in the sports world, a lot of currency is pride, is national pride. So I see this as being stimulus for us, to rally behind our products and, on a commercial side, but our athletes as they're competing, internationally.
Yeah. So when it comes to women's hockey, there's nothing but room for growth, obviously.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic growth. It has to, we have to have opportunities for that to continue. We have a build-up coming to the Italian Olympics in 2026. Undoubtedly, we'll see USA and Canada again, and it's so entertaining. Always goes to overtime. It's probably one of the most reliable tickets you can get in sport, because you're going to have 100% effort, a close game, heartbreak sometime, jubilation other times. So it's a good, reliable product for us.
Well, ice time for women's leagues and girls hockey, that's remaining to be a bit of a challenge from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think that, and that would go over to facility time in general, not only hockey, but indoor soccer, for example, indoor rugby. Our indoor facilities are whether they're ice or not ice, we just don't have enough, especially here in HRM. And I think we have to get serious about having a plan to make sure we match our growth that we have as a community with our sport and physical activity facilities. I think we're behind the pace right now, and we have to be more proactive in thinking, okay, what's it mean when we have an increased population of people who want different types of activity? It isn't all about ice. It's about indoor turf for various things, for cricket, for whatever sport our new Canadians may want, as well as some different preferences of our existing population.
It can be a tough sell, though, depending on because budgets are tight, and police budgets, and there's no shortage of places for money to get spent. So it can be a tough sell, is all I'm saying, Ken.
It can be a tough sell, but it has to be well organized and well presented, because it is for the welfare of
the betterment of everybody.
Yeah,
but for the average person out there who says, "Look, I'm not going to go into a rink for the rest of my life," I can see why some might look at it and say, "Why are we spending this money on recreation? I'm in, you're in."
Yeah.
But not everybody's in.
Yeah, and I think there's unique ways to do things. I don't think it's all about the public purse all the time. I think there's some creative alternatives that we can come up with the private sector where there's a win-win. And you look at a sport such as pickleball, obviously, which goes through some controversy on the outside. Seems to me like there's a ripe commercial opportunity or more commercial opportunities. I know there's some facilities now in HRM that can handle that, and that would be for basketball, for volleyball, for team sports. I think there are partnerships that would work from a private basis as well. So anyways, it's just more of a recognition. It's something that we have to be proactive on, not reactive on. I mean, we've had different facilities that take an awful long time to happen. We look at the Halifax Forum complex, which has been talked about for decades.
Still talked about. Still don't know where we're at.
So, and things have changed since then. Needs have changed. And, I just think we can do better off and look forward to having conversations with the new council and mayor about these things in the future. But, there are a lot of things that are great. We're lucky here, of course, because we have water. So we have sports like sailing, sports like canoeing, sports like rowing, where this is where it happens. The best in the world come from here, and we have some great performances. We heard over the weekend that the Georgia and Antonia Lewin-LaFrance, who were Olympians in 2024, are going again for 2028. And this is a pretty major commitment from that pair. They're the best sailors in the country now in Olympic classes. Their goal is to medal in 2028. It's not to participate, not to come in the top 10, but it's to be the best in the world. And so pretty excited about that team who is, with Ellie Black and Sloan McKenzie and a few others are kind of leaders in this area in terms of sport at an international level. They are as well, and they'll be great ambassadors for not only Canada but Nova Scotia on the international scene moving forward. So look out for them. We'll start their 4-year process later in March in Europe.
Okay, all right, Ken, we got some other things to get to, but first we need a break. We'll be right back. All right, joining me here in studio is Ken Bagnell, CEO, Canadian Sprot Institute Atlantic. We're doing this once a month to try and shine a light on some sporting issues that are happening locally, provincially, that perhaps might not get a spotlight on it otherwise. And Ken, you want to talk about coaching?
Yeah, and one of the ways in order to have a consistent level of athletes being produced out of a province or out of a city is having a backbone of coaches who produce these athletes, and we're really lucky in Halifax in order to have these coaches either here in the past or here currently. So even if we look at the rivalry game on Thursday night, Troy Ryan from Spryfield, who worked with us and with Hockey Nova Scotia for a number of years before he took the national team job on. He was creating a buzz, creating a place where female hockey players could come and develop, and he was here every day with them. Look at Jack Hanratty, who coached the silver medal-winning Olympic Rugby 7 women's team. He did that here for the Canadian Sprot Institute Atlantic, for Rugby Nova Scotia, for several years before he took on the national team job. And what's the result of that? Rugby's in a fabulous place around here. Hockey's in a fabulous place around here. Another woman, Heather Henniger, who was coach at Dalhousie in athletics, took the team to Paris in 2024. She's based out of Victoria now, but she was a cornerstone to developing that sport here. We currently have coaches like Chad Brooks, Anna Hetzler, and Andreas Dittmar, who are in the canoe community. They have 35 athletes who are national team who train out of Lake Bedok in Dartmouth. So those young kids who are at all those clubs across the Halifax area can see the best, the very best in the world, in fact, the best ever in some of the events, train with them because of the presence of these coaches in their area. Dave Kikuchi as well with gymnastics, who's been Ellie's long-term coach. Again, these people, not only athletes that coach, but the athletes who watch their athletes perform at an international level. It's so important for us to have those great coaches around. And they aren't necessarily paid coaches. Often they're high school coaches or club coaches or so forth. And it's so hard to be a coach these days. So I just want to give that appreciation to all the coaches out there, not only, again, the ones that are coaching national team athletes, but the ones that are at all levels. We have Canada Games coming up this summer in St. John's, Newfoundland. Nova Scotia's been fifth at the last two summer games, looking to move up, maybe nudge Alberta a little bit. And again, those athletes have, been working for, in many cases, 3 or 4 years, but the coaches have been around for many more years than that, getting those teams together. And so my request to everybody out there is just to say thank you to the coach who may work with your son or daughter in whatever sport, in at whatever level, because a little thank you goes a long way to making them feel like they're appreciated.
Why do you think coaching is more challenging now than it has been in the past?
Well, I think there's a whole financial element of being able to, fundraise and be able to travel to competition and so forth that is at a whole different level than it used to be. And fortunately, some teams have volunteer groups who do that, but often it relies on the coach. There is also an expectation of behavior, the safe sport issues, violation of trust or so forth that's happened in some cases now is something that every coach has to be much more diligent about of their own behavior and how they treat their participants with respect. And so I think coaches embrace that opportunity to do that, to take the leadership. But at times it becomes tough when you have, mainly parents overlooking the situation and, at times making it difficult for coaches. Again, that's why I encourage you to give some praise to the people.
Yeah, and especially with social media, and that can be a real cesspool as well, can it?
Yeah, it's really tough. And the rumor mill, which now is a public rumor mill based with social media, is not often based on the positive things that are happening, with sport and with coaches and so forth. Again, we do have to try to reverse that trend a little bit, but I have a lot of faith in the many, many coaches that are out there that are in it for the right reasons, who are giving great experiences to so many youth, whether they be in schools or clubs through sport. I think that now is the time actually to rely on sport and the character development that can happen in a well-run sport program in order to help our kids, have a much more clear path of moving forward. Just want to mention a couple things along the way as well. It's really difficult, and we were talking about this earlier off air. It's really difficult to get word out on how well some athletes are doing or teams are doing locally because of challenging times in getting information on sport or really anything in mainstream media. Most things are done through social media, and a lot of people are tuned out from that from the get-go or can't sort through that. But, we have these amazing performances, such as last weekend, actually in Italy, Julia Snellgrove, who's a long track speed skater, won 2 medals at the World Championship. One in a mixed relay, a gold medal actually, and a silver medal in a team sprint. She was also 4th overall of all the competitors in the world.
She's a Nova Scotian?
She's a woman from Dartmouth.
Dartmouth, wow. Yeah.
So it's amazing that we've had these people develop our community and now are doing such great things internationally, but we don't hear about them, right? Yeah. So one of the things I want to do is come in here and magnify and amplify, those great performances are happening. And we talk about things that are, happening in events. I've watched our canoe kayak team, for example, train every day for the last 3 months, every day, in order to, prepare for a once-a-year event, a world championship, where they may or may not succeed on that given day. But the effort that these people put in every day, it's kind of that unknown amount of energy, dedication, organization to be the best in the world. And we are so fortunate to have, a number of these athletes coming up. Another one, just like to mention, is Sullivan Nakatsu and his partner, Henry Sims, who are in the 49er class in sailing. This is a group that are brand new. Sullivan was top 10 in the world in his event formerly. These guys are trying to, secure a spot for Canada at a future Olympic Games, whether it's LA or Brisbane, don't know. But they've went on a journey and a commitment to be the best that they can be. I think we're going to see things from that pair happening in the next year or two, which will show that they're on the path. And we have so many athletes from so many sports who are going down this road. And again, appreciate the opportunity to give some light to them along the way.
Excellent. Ken, listen, I appreciate you coming in, and we'll have you in again next month. How's that sound?
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Excellent. Ken Bagnell, CEO, Canadian Sprot Institute Atlantic. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. We appreciate it very much. Thanks to Vanessa Van Ness as well on the other side of the glass at the control board, doing a fine job as always. We're back tomorrow, 10 o'clock. See you then.